All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick, recording on a Tuesday afternoon. Today we're going to talk about two good games and one bad game in the NFL. We're going to talk about Chiefs-Bills, Rams-Patriots. That's the bad one. Commanders-Eagles. Let's start off, Drew, with the big one, Chiefs-Bills. Are you surprised that the Bills are 2.5-point favorites here, which implies that they are slightly better than the Chiefs on neutral?
Yes and no. I make the Bills slightly better than the Chiefs on a neutral, but not this much. I don't think that there's a massive home field advantage here, at least not any way I can discern it. And I don't make the gap between Chiefs and Bills one. Nominally, a home field advantage this season is worth 1.5 points, maybe a little less. It's been exacerbated when you have, a nice travel situation or some rest to help kind of push your home field. But that doesn't exist here. And I think ultimately this is a decent chance to, kind of get involved with the Chiefs. If you like anything that you've seen from them in winning but not covering lately, then this is a nice little scoop low on them. I think ultimately the defense that the Chiefs are bringing to this particular matchup is the strongest individual unit. I think their run defense is going to make, to a degree, Buffalo win the game with their offhand, right? I think a lot of Buffalo's success has really been fueled by the fact that their offensive line is all universe and that they can kind of get a nice run game going, which then makes it very difficult to defend Josh Allen. But the run game, I think, is going to be a bit stymied here. And if they're conservative, this is sort of the kind of typical Joe Brady Bills, intensity and run heavy approach, then this could go sideways for them, because the Chiefs still do have some nice emerging pieces. The chemistry emerging between Hopkins and Mahomes is real. Mahomes obviously was not really impacted at all by the ankle injury. His mobility is still absolutely dynamite. They had a bit of a bad spot on their schedule last week, as that was their first 1 p.m. kickoff of the entire season. The stakes were like inherently lower for the players, and they were massive favorites. And this is a very different situation where they kind of have to go on the road and prove it that, everybody that's been, kind of glossing about how the Chiefs aren't equal to their record in terms of superlative status. They may be into this game to send a message, and I'm kind of into it. I think there are bigger edges on the board, lots of them. This is a little bit of a solved matchup. We know it's close. We know it should be inside of 3. And you can kind of take your shot however you feel. The game is going to break just in terms of sort of the key players performing well, as far as I can tell you. And for me in this spot, that's Chiefs plus the points. And I don't see many more games on their schedule where I'm going to be backing the Chiefs, so this might be it for me. But I do think that in general, the stakes feel awfully low because the Bills aren't going to be able to rein in the Chiefs for the 1 seed, even with a win here. And I think realistically, the margins are fine enough, and the better quarterback is ultimately Mahomes.
Yeah. So generally, I don't read into trends at all in NFL betting, like what's this guy's record against the spread on X days of rest or when he's traveling across a time zone or whatever, because I find it's just a lot more descriptive of previous events than predictive of what is going to happen going forward. And it's a nice way to simplify and understand something, but I don't think it has a lot of predictive value. The one trend that I might buy into, and the reason why is that I'm not sure it's actually descriptive, but there actually might be something inherent about it that is material. And that is that Patrick Mahomes has been an underdog 14 times in his career, and he has failed to cover the spread once out of those 14 times.
Wow.
And so 3 of those covers were in 3 playoff games last year, including one against Buffalo, and then the AFC title game against the Ravens, and they were narrow dogs against the Niners. They were dogs again this year against the Niners. And the reason why I think this might not just be descriptive is that if there is anyone in the NFL who has an extra gear that he saves for big games, in the same way that in years past, say Nikola Jokic in the NBA in the playoffs, he has another gear. And I think the title run for the Nuggets, they were mispriced the entire time because it wasn't baking in that Jokic had this extra gear that he could get to that just didn't show up in the regular season numbers, which power the Nuggets rating overall. I think there is possibly another aspect there with the Chiefs and with the fact that they do get up for these big games. They run the real plays. Mahomes is just a bit more locked in. Mahomes is more likely to scramble and put his body on the line, which is so much of what his value comes from in these big games. So do you think there is something to that there needs to be some kind of some bump for the Chiefs as kind of in regard to their team rating when they are playing in these big games?
I do. And it's Mahomes, but it's also Andy Reid.
Yeah.
They call better plays. The scheming is a little bit more focused. The bumbling of the clock in the game and just in general, like it draws more focus out of everyone, it feels like. And 2 weeks in a row, the Chiefs were huge favorites. There wasn't a lot at stake, and they're on cruise control, and now they're dogs. And this is a beautiful spot. If the Chiefs play up and like played their best game of the season, will you be surprised? No. You know why? The last time this happened was against the 49ers when it was the exact same situation. They're on the road. They're against a team that everybody's like, oh, well, Niners are playing pretty good football right now. Chiefs are kind of floundering. Well, Niners, the Chiefs defense in that case really stood up and just absolutely performed out of their socks. And if it's the Chiefs offense this time, not going to be surprised. I will note that it is very, very kind of under the radar that 3 of the 5 best games of Mahomes' season have been the last 3 weeks, including what on paper did not look especially impressive against the Broncos, but really was, considering that it was just some red zone futility that kept them from winning that game more comfortably. But he has now strung together 3 straight positive total EPA passing games to go with his dynamic running ability. And I think that in general, the offense may be a little bit underrated by market right now.
Yeah, I think the other thing with the Bills, and I would love to be wrong because the Bills are the team that I've backed most heavily to win the Super Bowl. I backed them at 20-1 before the season, went back to the well during the season when they started well, is that I just have a sneaking suspicion that 1, the defense isn't actually that great, and then 2, that Allen and his lack of, well, not Allen, but his lack of pass catches are going to get exposed in these big games. It's just very hard unless Amari Cooper gets really up to speed for him to have enough weapons to win what's probably going to have to be 4 playoff games, and also that is just going to be able to win games like this against Kansas City, where like they've played 2 really good teams this year, the Bills. They got absolutely trucked in Baltimore. And they had a terrible showing at Houston back when Houston was good. I'm not sure Houston's that good anymore in their current state, but back then they were a bit better. And Allen in that game against Houston, it's still a red flag to me that Josh Allen in a dome against that Texans defense went 9 for 30. Yeah. That still has to mean something, I think, and is potentially that needs to kind of infect your perception of this Bills offense going forward still, even though that was a while ago. And I just worry for this matchup specifically, like Dalton Kincaid is a question mark. Keon Coleman is not going to play. Amari Cooper just like hasn't played yet properly. He's played like a handful of snaps. And so they're going into this huge game and it's just going to be a lot of like Khalil Shakir and Mac Hollins against Spags' defense. And then on the other side, it was a disappointing performance from Kansas City's offense against Denver. I thought that the KC offense had really gotten on track the previous few weeks outside of the hiccup against San Francisco. But did you read a lot into that performance against Denver? Was that a terrible sign for Kansas City's offense?
Not at all. It was just some inefficient red zone trips. They're saving the good plays for the games against the Bills and the Niners. I don't know what else to say. Like I don't. If Kansas City puts together a sustained run where they're all of a sudden, unable to move the ball with their backs against the wall in a game where they need to score points at the end of the contest, then maybe we can put up a red flag that something's wrong. Until that happens, they are just, having some of the distractions and boredom that goes along with, just winning Super Bowls and then being undefeated. Like this game is going to bring focus, I think, to this offense in general. And I honestly, like, the fact that they played 8 games and every one of them was either a standalone, primetime game or the premier game in the 4 p.m. slot. And then all of a sudden, oh, well, we got a 1 o'clock kickoff against the Broncos and we're 8-point favorites and we're home again. And it's a short week. And, like, there were a million excuses for the Chiefs last week. And so I really I kind of give them credit, honestly, for finding a way to win. I think the Bills are in trouble. I think the Bills defense is the weakest unit out of the 4 in this game. At least I rate them the lowest, the Bills defense. I think the matchup of Chiefs defense versus Bills offense is going to be awesome because it really is going to force the Bills to beat them with their offhand. And I don't know that they can do that. As you mentioned, Dalton Kincaid, I think, is probably out. Coleman for sure is out. And the connection between Cooper and Allen has not borne nearly as much fruit as Hopkins Mahomes. So go figure what that's all about. But Bills defense right now, 10th in EPA per play overall on the season. And honestly, a lot of it fueled by some turnovers. If you remove turnovers, they drop to 17th. And if you watch the game against the Colts and you take away the pick 6 that opened the game for them, all of a sudden that's a tough cover. So this could get a little bit interesting for the Bills, as they're unlikely to slide out of the 2 seed in my opinion, but they're also very unlikely to get to the 1. So not as much at stake, honestly.
Yep. Well, I hope you're right. I hope I'm right. I need the Chiefs to win this game. I've gone to war with Mahomes and Lamar in the MVP market, taking on Josh Allen, which is a little scary, though not that scary. I feel pretty good about Lamar in particular. And I like Mahomes continuing to win games because it kind of blocks. As much as it kind of gives Mahomes some life in the market, I think Mahomes winning, it more just blocks Josh Allen, because I think Allen is going to be pretty dependent on the 1 seed if Lamar takes the division, because I don't think 2 seed v 3 seed is really going to be determinative for Allen if Lamar has the much better stats. So get it done, please, Patrick. All right, Rams-Patriots. But before we get to that, Oregon's march to the college football playoff continues on Saturday night as the Ducks face an upset-minded Wisconsin team at Camp Randall Stadium. Coverage of the Big Ten Showdown begins at 7 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock. All right, the Rams are 4.5-point favorites against the Patriots in New England. This line opened around a touchdown and then came down to 4.5 after whatever the Rams served up on Monday night. The total is 43.5. Stafford looked terrible to me, yes, Drew, and frankly, he's looked terrible all season. And I don't want to say that he is washed, but he might be washed adjacent. And I think that he is at the point of his career where he is very dependent on a rock solid offensive line, like he had to a much greater extent last season. And as soon as he feels pressure now, like, it's just all over. And the Dolphins were able to get him. So where do you rank this Rams offense at the moment? Because I think the defense is actually kind of fine of late, but the offense is supposed to be this all-world unit, and it just doesn't look like it right now.
It's true. And in general, both Stafford and Goff under McVay thrived with brilliant protection and struggled when the protection broke down. And I thought for sure last night, with the reinforcements coming and a kind of a fully intact offensive line for the Rams, that we were going to see good Stafford. And I mean, let's not forget, we're only a couple of weeks removed from Stafford against the Vikings on Thursday Night Football, where he had one of the best games of any quarterback all season. And I think in general, like, he's still capable of producing that level, but it was not on display on Monday Night Football. That was an abominable performance. And on a short week now, they have to travel across the country and take on a Patriots team, and it's not a great spot. The Rams defense, however, may come to the rescue. The pass rush for this Rams unit is ferocious, and they are taking on an offensive line for the Patriots that is the opposite of ferocious. They are struggling mightily. And while Drake May has kind of proven more so than Caleb Williams, amazingly, that he is kind of belongs at the NFL level, it's still going to be a really long day for him, I think, against a very good pass rush here. So I'm a little nervous about the spot, a little nervous about land points, a little bit concerned about what we're seeing with Stafford under pressure. But I think that the market has over adjusted to one result. And I think that the Rams are the right side here. And this is actually one of my favorite looks of the week. I was I was on Patriots last week, but that was mostly just because I didn't believe the number should have been that big against the Bears, who just didn't deserve that type of respect. And I kind of feel the opposite this week. I think the Rams do deserve this much respect. And McVay didn't help things last night. His lack of aggressiveness and really just kind of losing focus of when to hit the run button, and like it felt like he couldn't really make up his mind of like what he wanted the identity of the offense to be, and that indecision and combined with the conservativeness at times really kind of handicapped them on top of it. But there were pretty clear and obvious situations where you would expected the Dolphins to try to bring pressure and try to really disrupt the Rams as they were in comeback mode, and it felt like the Rams were unprepared for it every time, and I'm pulling my hair out. So I don't think realistically the Patriots are as well coached a team as the Dolphins are, well coordinated on defense as the Dolphins are, and they're lacking a little bit of kind of star power on the defensive side this year. And congratulations for frustrating Caleb Williams and getting Shane Waldron his walking papers, but I think ultimately the Rams are going to have no issues here sustaining offense on both sides of the ball and getting a pretty comfortable win. So I'm laying it with the Patriots. And I was at one point somewhat bullish on the Rams from a futures perspective. I thought, oh, these guys can make a run. Last night's win actually didn't materially change my projections for them a lot. I still have them at 16% chance to make the playoffs and 10% chance to win the division. They're pretty close to the Seahawks. Next, the upcoming matchup between those two teams is really the elimination game more so than sustaining that loss last night. But this one is pretty important for the Rams to get a win. And I think if there's any wrinkles or any focus or any kind of playing up, it's going to be in this contest. And I just don't see the Patriots being able to deal with the two-headed monster of Kupp and Nakua, and I really don't other than weather and travel and a short week, there's not a lot of reasons to doubt the Rams in this one, in my opinion.
Yeah, to your point about McVay, Sean McVay, he needs to embrace woke NFL values. He needs to come to the light and embrace progressive decision-making, because he just hits the conservative button every single time. It's like, what are you doing kicking when you're on the 4? Like, do you think you're going to get a better chance at a touchdown than that moment right there? And you know what? They didn't get a better chance at a touchdown than that moment right there. Like, you're playing to win the game, not to kick a field goal from the 4 to get you in a position where now you need to get a stop, score a touchdown, and go for 2 and then win in overtime. Like, you need a touchdown in that spot. Yeah, if you take a sack and it's like 4th and 14 or whatever, okay, at that point it becomes somewhat reasonable. But he just does the same thing every time. Against the Lions in the playoffs, that was a complete disaster. Not going for it on 4th down. It just seems like he just is way too tied to the old school, punt it away and let's get a stop. Well, yeah, I'm not sure you're going to get a stop. I'm not sure you're going to get a better chance than this. So disappointing there. And this team isn't good enough to be able to get away with that stuff at the moment. They need to be maximizing around the margins. The offensive line, I think, will continue to get a bit healthier, and that will help Stafford exponentially, given that he is old and can't really create as much out of structure anymore. But yeah, this seems like a very, very average team at the moment, with the offense going the wrong way and the defense going the right way. Though the defense is pretty impressive against the Dolphins and has been better since what was a tough start. But yeah, this team I don't think is going to make any noise this season. All right, the Stars are out in Los Angeles for Sunday Night Football when Justin Herbert and the Chargers host Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Tune in to NBC and Peacock at 7 p.m. Eastern as we lead you up to kickoff in Southern California. As you all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. If you haven't signed up to BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code BETEDGE. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code BETEDGE when you sign up. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Okay, let's close out with another big one. Thursday Night Football, Commanders at Eagles. Eagles 3.5-point favorites at home. The total is 49 flat. This is going to naturally have massive repercussions for the division, the NFC East. How do you change your opinion of the Commanders coming off of that loss to the Steelers, if at all?
It changes a lot. And I know that there were moments in that game that were very high leverage, that were very fluky, that broke in favor of the Steelers. The 3rd and 9 touchdown to Mike Williams was pretty incredible play. And if the Commanders defend that one better, then they probably win out easy. If they get one more yard out of Zach Ertz on 4th and 9, then they maybe have a chance to win a field with the long field goal. And I feel very differently about this team as they are still sort of live for the 2 seed. Right now, they look to me as holding on to the 6th wild card spot here, because I have a pretty significant shift in NFC East probability with the Eagles beating the Cowboys and the Commanders losing to the Steelers. And this game, where I agree with the market that the Eagles should be favored by more than a field goal, is pretty high likelihood Eagles win and really kind of just ends the divisional race for all intents and purposes, outside of something absurd happening. And so you go from live in the NFC East, live for a 2 seed and some home games, to hanging on to the 6th seed for dear life. And that's not a great swing just in terms of your season arc. To make matters more ishy for the Commanders, we have a coach in Dan Quinn who I like, but who has trouble closing the deal in times in his career. And we have a coach in offensive coordinator in Cliff Kingsbury, who's largely been solved over the first half of seasons as more tape is kind of able to be evaluated by defensive coordinators around the league. And we have a rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels, who could hit the rookie wall at some point and just be a little bit out of gas. He's been playing through injuries, and he may just in general kind of run out of tricks to really be able to differentiate himself. And so I think that we may have seen the top on Washington, which is obviously not great from the standpoint of we want fun, exciting young teams and new faces and good stories for our playoffs. But when just a couple weeks ago I was looking at their schedule and thinking like, hey man, if they can take care of business as favorites here, like this is a team that's fighting for premier playoffs seeding. And now I feel like, well, they're going to be fighting to save their wild card lives as teams like the Packers, the Niners, the Cardinals, the Rams and the Seahawks, all knocking on the door to try to push them down the standings and out of the wild card race. And it's possible. Right now, I project the Commanders for 11 wins. We were talking about them in sort of the 12-win rare air not all that long ago, and right now to get to 12, it's feeling a little bit tougher. And they're going to have wins like this one, which is going to be tough on a short week on the road in a primetime spot in Philadelphia. This is one of the biggest home field advantages in the football that still exists, and I think that in general, their defense is not going to be good enough for the test that is, these two exceptional wide receivers that Philadelphia brings to the table here in this contest, combined with just in general solid coordinated offense and okay, not great quarterback play so far this year, and maybe great defense. Philadelphia's defense is grading phenomenally well. And I know they've played no one, but you know who else has played no one? The Washington offense. So this is kind of a little bit of a step up in competition for this Washington offense at a time that I don't think they're necessarily dying to have this test, and it could go a little sideways for them in prime time. I'm worried.
Yeah, I think there are, of the four units, with apologies to special teams, the four units, I think three of them are fairly known commodities in that the Commanders' offense is just awesome. It's just an elite offense. We have a lot of sample of that. It's very, very good. The defense is not very good, but it's no longer completely atrocious. And they have a surprisingly good pass rush. We'll see about Marshall and Lattimore, but he's going to help that team when he is able to get fit with that. I think it's a hamstring that he's carrying. So that unit, I think, is a pretty known commodity as well, unless Lattimore is going to revolutionize it. The Eagles' offense is just, as it always is very good, but has a little bit of a cap ceiling because Jalen Hurts, I don't think, is a guy with a capital G. He is merely very solid, and he's a good quarterback, but he is not Mahomes, Lamar, Allen, Burrow, these type of guys. I don't think he's even like Herbert, Purdy, that level of quarterback, really. But he is perfectly fine, and the offensive line is great. So the offense is going to be very good, but I don't think it's a top 3-4 unit. The Eagles defense is the one that has this still, I think, a fairly wide range of outcomes where, like, have Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, have they just turned this now into have they helped revolutionize this secondary into something that is now, a real strength of the team? Jalen Carter continues to get better. Darius Slay looks less old, perhaps because he's got Quinion Mitchell helping him out instead of Bradbury. So I don't know where this defense is going to end up. Like right now in my head, I would think that it's, like the 12th, 13th best defense in the league. Does that seem reasonable?
So I had this exact conversation yesterday. I make them 10th. Okay. And honestly, I'm having trouble defending that. Looking at the data, like I know EPA per play for defense, it tells one story, and that is what quarterbacks have you played? Like that's kind of all that it is. And they haven't played very many good ones. In fact, the only kind of outcome that you can point to on their schedule, and it's somewhat recent, is that they kept the Bengals in a healthy amount of check in that game. Yeah, you remove turnovers. They're third right now in the NFL in EPA per play. Worse than the Chargers and the Broncos, a hair better than the Vikings. They have allowed the worst success rate to offenses so far this season. They've been good against the run, not great, and excellent against the pass. And yeah, some of it is the quarterbacks they have played have been pretty poor. But again, it's not fueled by turnovers. It's just sort of fueled by Vic Fangio doing what he does, which is sort of get his guys prepared and coached up. And the fact that he's got young talent that, maybe slid to them in the draft because of injury concerns, but they're healthy, and that he's coaching them into the right positions to be effective shouldn't really be a surprise. Their pass rush leaves a little bit to be desired, but they are able to generate interior pass pressure. And oh, by the way, the Commanders' offensive line is not especially healthy. That's sort of kind of nervous about this unit that I didn't even mention. They all practiced, and Monday, would have been a walkthrough type of situation. But they were all limited, the entire starting front five. And if they can't provide protection for Daniels in this spot, and frankly, his performance last week was concerning as well. It flew under the radar because they were winning for lots of that game and had a chance to put it away. But there are warning signs flashing all around Washington right now that we've seen the best of this offense, and that it's going to come back to earth over the back half of the season.
Yep, I agree with all of that. All right, we are done for today. Don't forget to check out NBCSports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks to those watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to rate and subscribe. Also a reminder to find all your favorite NBC Sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. From myself and Drew, we'll see you soon.